What's up, everyone? So excited to be back doing YouTube videos and especially Halloween ones. So today we're doing Jason from Friday the 13th, and we are starting off with a white liner to draw in a wound. I want it to look like his mask has broken off in chunks and his mouth is got this giant wound that shows his teeth, and his teeth are clenched. And so I'll show or I'll link the inspiration in the bottom bar for this. And so here I am drawing the teeth, and then I'm doing another wound. It's got to be all choppy like that because it's a mask. So then I go in with third degree. This is like a medium that you use to make wounds. You mix equal parts of A and B, and it creates this like gel-like consistency. Mine's extra thick because it's old. And so I add that to the outside of the wound so it looks like skin lifting. And so you just add a nice thick layer all around the edges of that. I have this little tool I'm using that helps a lot. It's really sticky, so take your time and work with it just to get that thick raised layer. Once that's done, I use some of it to push down into the skin so it's got like a gradient effect, so it's not just a lifted skin part, but that it kind of gradients into that. And so you want to use this tool to kind of push that down a little bit, but leave it raised towards the inside. And I do the same to this other wound I created. And the third one. Then I'm going to go in with Mehron's Paradise water activated paints and use the white to start coloring in my teeth. You can use any brush you want for this. If you go to Michael's and get paint brushes, those are really nice. And then I go with a second layer of the white. You can layer water activated paints if you make sure that your brush isn't too wet when you dip it into the paint again. If it's too wet, it will lift it. And then I'm going to use some black water activated paints to outline the teeth. Once that's all done, I'm going to use the black to outline the outside of the wound. And I did the same thing for this wound as well. As the wound goes towards the outside by the skin, it should get darker, and so the black helps with that. And then here I'm adding some like cracks in the teeth, and you can be really messy with this just to make it look like the teeth are all messed up. And then I'm using a red from that palette. And then I changed my mind and I used a lighter red from another Mehron palette that I listed in the bottom bar. And so this is the lightest red I have of the paints. And that's what you want the inside of the wound to look like. And then towards the edge, I did a darker red. But don't bring that red too far in because you want the lighter red to be closer to the teeth or towards the inside of the wound to be lighter red. Same thing here. I kind of use the black on the outside to blend in the red too, to make it a little bit darker. And then here I'm just painting the outside of the wound, but I'm trying to not go over where the third degree is because I'm going to be painting my face white and I don't want it to turn pink when I mix the white next to the red. Same thing with this wound. Here I am just using a foundation brush to add white paint from the Mehron palette. Trying to not touch the red paint of those wounds as much as possible. If it does, whatever, but just try your best. And then I'm using wet wipe to pull the paint off the edges of the face because it's supposed to be a mask and be lifted off the skin. Next I go in with the James Charles palette, but you can use any palette you have. You just need like browns. So here I'm using a lighter brown to make the mask look dirty. I'm just adding it wherever I think it needs it. And then I go in with a darker brown, make it even more dirty, especially around the nose, around the eyes, the perimeter. Here I'm using black paint again, the water activated. I don't know what this thing is on the mask, but he has one. That I'm showing is an SFX crayon from NYX, and it was making me crazy for a bit there because it creased really bad. But then as time went on, I actually liked the creasing because it made it look more like Jason. So here I'm using a brown shadow to create the holes in the mask. So you want to start with the lightest color first. So I'm using a light brown. And they don't have to be perfect. Literally nothing in this makeup look is perfect, so just make little circles. And then I'm just using a black shadow to make a shadow on the outside of the mask, because the mask would be creating a shadow if you were wearing an actual mask. I jump all over the place with these tutorials, so back to these circle things now. I'm using the black water activated paints to outline the circle for shadowing. Okay, so now I'm actually going to use the lighter red and start painting outside of the wound and then blending it out with my finger. As you see I'm doing here, the messier the better. So you just add it and then you dab it. Then I just use black shadow to darken the teeth a bit. You want it to be darkest towards your ear because of the way shadows would hit, and lightest towards your mouth. And then I'm creating little shadows on the outside of each of these circles with the black shadow. Here I'm using the black water activated paint and adding these hockey mask markings. And then I use the white water activated paint to highlight each of these circle hole things. And I added the clasp. I think that's a clasp. I don't know. And then highlighted it. And then I am adding some shadow to the outside parts where you're, what am I trying to say? I'm shadowing around the eye. And then I'm just using the water activated paint with lots of water on the brush and splattering blood all over my face. My favorite part. And that's the final look.